Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Better Together podcast. I'm Mike Baker. This is going to be a fascinating conversation. Our guests today are Bill Pfinsgraff and Emma Hoagland with the Idaho Community Foundation. We're going to talk about community investment, how to build community, how the Idaho Community Foundation is supporting nonprofits through the Nonprofit Center, and an incredible opportunity to give and be part of community through the Idaho Gives program. So stay tuned, jump into this episode with us. You're going to learn a lot. Here we go. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. We've got Bill and Emma from the Idaho Community Foundation. We're going to have a great conversation. Like we talked about in the introduction, Idaho Community Foundation does great things for Idaho, and we're just so lucky to have you on here today. Let's get into it real quick and just talk about, what is the Idaho Community Foundation? Why do you guys exist? What's the point? What do you guys do?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. Obviously, this is a great opportunity to spread the news and awareness of the Idaho Community Foundation and a lot of our programs. The Idaho Community Foundation was founded by John Ferry in 1988. We serve all 44 counties in Idaho. We support nonprofits and the nonprofit sector, as well as schools and even government organizations as well through grants that we provide. Obviously, all those grants would come from gracious donors across the state and philanthropic Idahoans, as well as sponsorships through businesses. So I mentioned some of the programmatic work that we do. A lot of that has come in the last year and a half after the merger with the Idaho Nonprofit Center. And I'll let Emma discuss a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Bill. So about a year and a half ago, the Idaho Community Foundation and the Idaho Nonprofit Center merged. The Idaho Nonprofit Center has been a real staple down in Boise, but all of their services and programs have extended statewide since their beginning. And I call them kind of the nonprofit for nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
They provide education, training opportunities, some kind of let's walk alongside our nonprofit leaders with some camps and cohorts. And then they have put on Idaho Gives, our statewide giving opportunity for the last 13 years. So with that merger of ICF and the Idaho Nonprofit Center, we've extended our reach into the nonprofit impact work. And through this work, we're really able to come alongside local nonprofits in the North region. And then we have several other employees down throughout the state that do the same work for our nonprofits. And we are able to support them with really anything they need.
Right.
Legislative support. So we track all of the bills in every session. In this most recent session, there was a bill that was going to severely impact nonprofits. And so we were able to galvanize the nonprofit sector to be able to come and speak against that bill. And it was killed in committee, which was amazing. So it's just our ability to give back to those who spend all of their time giving back and make sure that they have capacity. We want to be able to build that capacity so that our nonprofits can continue to support the impact work that they do.
That's great. I love how you describe it as the nonprofit for nonprofits. I mean, I know we participated in some board trainings and different things over the years. I mean, it's really hard running a nonprofit and finding resources that are local and affordable and really dialed into what you need in Idaho has always been such a great resource. So thank you for your work. It's a big deal.
Absolutely. And I think you really hit the nail on the head there. It's, nonprofit work can be lonely sometimes, especially our smaller nonprofits that may be volunteer run or board run, or maybe you have one executive director and an admin assistant. And from my experience working in nonprofits, it's also really hard to know where the best resources are. And what's so fabulous about the Nonprofit Center being a program of ICF now is that these resources are specific for Idaho. So the Nonprofit Center does yearly studies. They do state of the sector presentations. They really have a pulse of what's happening with nonprofits, whether that's their successes or their challenges or their barriers, and they're able to directly impact our statewide nonprofits. So it's not where you're trying to find something that's impacting at the national level. It's something that's here. It's for our local nonprofits, and we understand the needs and concerns that they have.
Yeah, I mean, it makes such a difference having somebody that's local that understands Idaho.
Yeah.
I mean, our organization has grown a lot since I first started, but I remember those first few years working, in a very small nonprofit. It's a small team. You have to meet up with all of your federal guidelines, your state guidelines. You got to track legislative resources. You have to track your budgets. You have to hire. And I mean, it's intense. And then, you have even smaller nonprofits that, I mean, the work doesn't go away based on your size. And we still have all the same compliance. And being able to have a partner like that is just so valuable. So great job.
I would say also, I mean, nonprofits are certainly unique, especially you brought up marketing. Like, you have to market not only to your donors to get money in, but then oddly enough, you have to market to who you're going to provide services to and where the money's going to go out. So it's kind of an odd juxtaposition for most nonprofits in that they have to market their services to the people in need, but then also have to market so that they can even provide that service. So it's definitely a unique place to be in really a business landscape, because honestly, nonprofits are a business, and they're just happen to be not for profit.
I know. I always remind people, like, it's just mostly a tax, thing more than anything else. I mean, you still have to cover your expenses, and I mean, everything is more expensive now. Salaries are up, and reimbursements continue to decrease. I mean, these are the challenges that we're all facing, as nonprofits out there, and getting to the spot as an organization where you can partner up with foundations and start building for that long-term future, of the organization. I think that's one of the real values of the community foundation. So let's talk about that aspect just a little bit on kind of how you guys can support nonprofits for those longer-term things and maybe some of the grants, and we'll jump into Idaho Gives right after that.
Yeah, I would say, the Idaho Community Foundation can certainly support nonprofits on that financial aspect of the Forever Idaho grant cycle, which is a statewide grant cycle that provides unrestricted grants to nonprofits across the state of Idaho. And actually, even nonprofits that exist maybe on the border of Washington, and maybe in Spokane, maybe in Palouse, maybe in Pullman, but happen to serve the Idaho market, then they can also apply for those grants as well. But where we might not be able to provide every dollar that every nonprofit needs, that's certainly never going to be the case. That merger with the Nonprofit Center allows us to now work to build each nonprofit's capacity as well to help serve themselves and help fundraise for themselves, run their board better, just run the organization better as a whole, so that they can increase their capacity overall.
That's great. I mean, again, it's just such a great partnership. I mean, you guys have worked with countless nonprofits, like, as you guys have been doing this. Before we jump into Idaho Gives, I forgot, I want to hear about how you guys got into these roles. Yeah. So how did you land with Idaho Community Foundation and the work you're doing?
Sure, I can go first. So I've been working in nonprofits for about 7 years now. When my family and I moved to Coeur d'Alene from the Seattle area, I was taking care of my babies at home, and I had been a teacher for many years in Washington. And when I was looking to go back into the workforce, I was really thinking through, like, do I want to do education again? I loved being a teacher. I loved being able to impact high schoolers' lives with English. They really love it. Poetry and Of Mice and Men, it's their favorite. It's not. But it's one of those things where I really thought about that role, and I recognized that my favorite thing about being a teacher was the impact that you could have with the students and with their families. And when you build relationships with those individuals, they tell you about their concerns, they tell you about their barriers. And it was something where I loved being able to help those people during a difficult season and help them have referrals to other resources or nonprofits or mental health counseling or whatever it was. And so I thought to myself, like, let's see what the world of nonprofits looks like in Coeur d'Alene. I was new to the area, and I was fortunate enough to join Safe Passage. So I worked at Safe Passage at their crisis domestic violence shelter as a crisis advocate. And that was a really tough job. Those
Yeah.
people who provide direct care services, I was with all of them last night at trivia. They're incredible people. The amount of time and effort that they give to the survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault is incredible. And from that role, it really opened my eyes to the world of nonprofits. And when you are at one nonprofit, you collaborate with lots of other nonprofits. And so I got to learn about the culture of nonprofits in our Coeur d'Alene area, and I was just floored. And so from that experience, I transitioned out of direct care and focused more on grants. So I was able to write grants and then manage those grants if they were awarded. And I worked in substance use prevention for the health district, and then wrote some grants for a national nonprofit as well. And with the Community Foundation, they have a stellar reputation throughout our state. I didn't know a lot about community foundations. And so as I kind of dove in and learned more about the work that they did, I was shocked, honestly. I had no idea the range of services that they have, the amount of funds that have been given out over the years through the foundation. I mean, Bill knows all the numbers. You got to share them because it's astounding.
It's amazing,
The
yeah.
millions and millions and millions of dollars that have been poured into Idaho through the work of the foundation and the incredible generosity of our donors. And so with this role, this is a brand new role for the foundation. And so my role is community engagement for the North. And I'm able to go into the top 7 counties and really directly support the nonprofits. And so that looks like a variety of things, whether that's help with strategic planning or budgeting, or let's look at your donor engagement strategies. And then on kind of a holistic view, it's just capacity building as a whole. What can we do? What does the foundation need to create, whether that's new opportunities at our regional impact summits or our annual conference, or expansion of Idaho Gives. It's really just that capacity and impact work with the nonprofits. So now that's what I get to do every day, is just support the people who are doing the most important work. And I'm completely honored to have this role.
Oh, that's so cool. What a great history to bring into this role. I mean, you're so true. All the nonprofits, like you kind of develop your own family, within this group. And we're all referring to each other and relying on the resources. It's a great group to be a part of.
It is.
So that's great. Thanks for sharing that. How about you?
Yeah, so this is actually my first role in the nonprofit sector. I came from the beer world, so shout out to
There you go.
Elysian and Space Dust IPA. Yeah, so
Sponsored by?
yeah, no kidding. But if you're any familiarity with the craft beer industry, there's such an interwoven kind of relationship with the
Right.
craft beer industry and the nonprofit sector. It's a constant, really like provision of sponsorships
Right.
and beer for events and all sorts of things from the craft beer sector. I mean, we do so many events at breweries and just, I mean, people are luscious in the nonprofit sector, apparently. I don't know. But I'd always volunteered. It was definitely kind of something that was instilled in me by my parents. And so I definitely had experience within the nonprofit sector, but not as a career position. So this would be my first step into that. I actually was friends with Peter Fauché, who was my predecessor. And when he was accepted into the Peace Corps, he's now currently in Nepal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So serving the Peace Corps, he recommended that I applied. He kind of knew that I had kind of a shoe-in, so to speak, into the nonprofit sector and thought that this might be a role that I'd be interested in. And he was certainly right. I mean, it's been a great position to be a part of. I will say that Steve Burns, our CEO, who is unbelievable. I mean, he is I mean, my first 6 months, I think he had 11 trips up to North Idaho, like with me. I'm like, he was in North Idaho more than he was in Boise, and he lives in Boise. So I'm like, he really, truly wants this to be the Idaho Community Foundation, not the Boise Community Foundation, not the Ada County Community Foundation. Like, it's truly a goal to make sure that we are serving all 44 counties. It was very recently that he was able to now ensure that we have representation from all 44 counties within our regional council. So we now, I want to say it was like Clark County was kind of that stickler that just, it was a hard county to get that representation. So we have that now, and definitely very proud to be a part of that. I brought up Steve because he mentioned to me when I first started, he's like, this is a position or an experience that will reinstill faith in humanity for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Where, social media and traditional media sources are constant negativity, constant reasons to just, be angry at the other people, however you may deem that. It really, you get to see people at their best. Getting to meet with, gracious donors or that are giving, their legacy, and in creating a fund to support the nonprofit sector or support schools or some sort of initiative, it's something that matters to them that's going to benefit the community at large. It's really pretty cool to see and be a part of that. I will say, I was in a marketing conference recently where somebody mentioned, forever and ever, they always thought sex sells. But recently they found out there's something that sells even better than sex, and that is rage. And that's kind of where, people always feel like they're pitted against each other now. And why I feel like we've gotten so far away from kind of healthy discourse. And so I would say, definitely this job has made me realize that, it doesn't matter what end of the spectrum you're on. When it comes down to things that truly matter, 85% of all things that people care about are the same, regardless of what you think you identify as politically or otherwise. So when you think like, oh man, these crazy people are like, man, you're only 15% different than them. Right. And it really kind of lends the kind of perspective that, you need to talk to your neighbor.
Absolutely. Well, and I like that. I mean, I think it's kind of on all of us right now to work hard to restore that humanity in the conversations. Because, as you were talking about, I mean, you're on social media, you see the division, but I hang out in the lobby of a Heritage Health Clinic. I'm at the grocery store. You're at community meetings. We were just before the show talking about all the events that are happening in this community. I mean, people aren't just like boxing and fighting each other at those events, right? I mean, you see that, look, people probably voted for different people or have different perspectives on things, and where they're having fun, sharing an experience, winning trivia, evidently, doing all of these things where the shared human experience really matters. And I think, as a community foundation, as community health centers, as nonprofits, it's a big responsibility on all of our shoulders right now to find ways to tie people together and, address some of the root causes. So I love that's a big part of it. You guys both have awesome backgrounds, and evidently our nonprofits, there must be a close tie-in to the craft beer industry. I like that a lot. That's great. Let's talk about, so Idaho Gives is a really cool thing. It's coming up. Let's talk about that. Yeah. Take it away.
I would say I'm going to lean over to Emma to take this one away because she's the lead.
I love Idaho Gives. This is incredibly exciting. So Idaho Gives is the Idaho Community Foundation's program. It is a online giving campaign. It takes place May 4th through 7th of this year. So I think we're just about 17 days away. How this campaign started was a program of the Idaho Nonprofit Center. It started 13 years ago. It began as just a 24-hour giving campaign, and they were shocked because it brought in over $500,000 in 24 hours for the nonprofits that were participating. And so from that point on, it's gone through several different iterations. It's been a 2-week campaign. It's been a 5-day campaign. And now we've settled on kind of within the last few years post-COVID, this 4-day, week-long structure. And so last year, we had about 620 nonprofits statewide participate. And in those 4 days, $5.1 million was raised.
Powerful.
It's very powerful. The impact is incredible. And those funds that are raised by our friends, by our community members, by Idahoans. And say what you will about Idahoans, but they show up for their neighbor. And it's an incredible testament to the generosity of our state. And it's incredible to see where those dollars go towards. They go towards everything. They go to trail maintenance, to seniors' meals, to buying supplies for kids' backpacks, for food for those kids for over the weekend. I mean, when you think about the amount of people that are impacted by those dollars, it's pretty staggering. And so this year, our hope is to raise $6 million. As of today, we have 702 organizations signed up, registered for Idaho Gives. What that registration means is that on idahogives.org, each of those nonprofits has their own Idaho Gives webpage, and they're able to specifically design that page. They can have fundraising tiers, $25 will go towards this, $1,000 will go towards this. They're able to share their story through photos and videos, and they're able to just accept donations right there on that page. They each have their own unique URL, so they can create a QR code, they can send the link in a newsletter or a mailer or an email or however they want to get the word out. So, but what's great about this program is that ICF manages the website. We pay for all of the kind of helpline services. So if there's any tech issues, we're able to immediately solve those for the nonprofits. And then we spend an abundance of time and energy doing statewide marketing campaigns, whether that's through newspaper, email, Spotify, television,
Podcasts.
idahogives.org, looking right at the camera. And just to make sure that there is statewide visibility for our nonprofits. The hope and what we've seen from the data is that the donors come in and they give about 1.8 times when they come in. So hopefully they find their favorite nonprofit, but then they look maybe at a nonprofit that's in the same type of cause, but it's located somewhere else in Idaho. So the intention is not just raising funds, but also so that nonprofits can find new donors, new connections, maybe new volunteers, board members, really that idea of giving your time, your talent, and your treasure. So it's just an incredibly exciting giving opportunity. The barrier to entry is low. It is a $10 minimum donation. And I've said this 100 times, that my kids are saving their allowance so that during May 4th through 7th, they can go on idahogives.org and they can pick their organization, they can learn about it, and they can give. And so the culture of philanthropy is really strong in the state, but I think what's so lovely about this campaign is that you're able to pass it down to every generation. And if you can't give financially, that's okay. You can learn about the organization and maybe volunteer at their next event. So it just allows for that capacity building for our nonprofits and hopefully then ensures that their impact continues for years to come, as this is a year-over-year campaign. And it's just continued to grow here in North Idaho. In the Coeur d'Alene specific area, we have 35 local nonprofits signed up. In the North region as a whole, we have over 100. And we have a ton of kickoff events and local events so that we can get the community involved. And the Greater Coeur d'Alene Community Foundation, which is an affiliate of the Idaho Community Foundation, they have raised generously through their donors $10,000 that's going to be split into 6 prize grants. 5 $1,000 grants and one $5,000 grant that are going to go directly to the nonprofits that are participating. We have a fun event where we're going to bring the nonprofits and the donors together. They're going to draw and see who wins the prize. There will be beer and wine at Daft Badger.
Of course.
Shout out to Daft Badger for helping us with that event. But it's just this exciting opportunity for us to surround our nonprofits with support and with love, with our finances, with our time. Because really what we understand is that when Idaho gives, Idaho thrives. And that's what we want to see this year. So May 4th through 7th, idahogives.org.
I love it. Well, it's just such a great example of just people coming together. I mean, again, we're talking about division. These are the stories that, if we can just amplify these voices, it's such a great reminder that Idaho really is better when we're working together and we're tying these things into our local communities and growing it. I love that you have your kids all queued up to give. That's such a great example, for all of us, just to make sure that we're instilling that philanthropy in all of the ages, as we grow up. So that's wonderful. Thank you. You feel pretty passionate about this project, right?
I really
I love
do.
it.
I'm very excited. And I think what I also think about is, Bill and I have been in so many of these rooms with nonprofits over the last few months, and it's been a hard year. It's been a hard few years for our nonprofits. And so every time we come and we give an update about Idaho Gives, the amount of people that have signed up to be a part of it, the community support that we have through the Greater Coeur d'Alene Foundation and these local businesses that are involving themselves, like they all kind of take a breath. They feel supported. They feel that they're not alone. And so I think that is incredibly impactful as well. And maybe for some of them, even more important than the dollars, to just know that there are people who love them, who care for them, that support them, and that they're not alone in all of this. And so it's just been an incredible thing to see the growth in North Idaho for this program. And I'm very passionate, very excited. It's coming up.
No, I love it. Thank you so much. Do you want to add anything to that? It's a hard one to follow there.
Yeah, that is a hard one to follow. It's hard to add much. What I will say is that, I mean, it truly is just about supporting the nonprofit sector as a whole. It's also about, marketing the nonprofit sector as well. I mean, we've talked about some of the headwinds and budget cuts, and, budget cuts don't happen without support for budget cuts. So I think a lot of people view the nonprofit sector as, something that, they should just be happy they get anything. But, in Idaho, where we do, I mean, we vote for small government. Well, what that means is that nonprofits have to fill in those gaps where, the government is not, and provide those safety net services for our communities and just the overall betterment of the communities. So we need to make sure that philanthropy keeps up, and Idaho Gives is certainly a big part of that, and that. Emma mentioned that, we raised over $5.1 million that goes directly to nonprofits last year. And with a goal of surpassing $6 million, that's gone towards our $200 million moment last year, where we have now granted out over $200 million in our history. Over 20 of which happened just last year. So you kind of imagine like, wow, that's quite the hockey stick curve growth, in recent years, when 1/10 of all of your grants have come in 1 year in your, 38-year history. So we're definitely really excited about that. We've already granted out over $220 million now as of this year. So we're proud to support the nonprofit sector, and we want to do it obviously on a financial basis, but much more than that, we want to support them in any way we can.
I really appreciate that whole package, right? I mean, again, it's hard to do this job. It's great to have these connections, the fundraising, I think there is this thing with donor fatigue in communities. I mean, fundraising season is upon us. And, we were talking, last night there were 5 or 6 events in our community, and everybody's trying to choose and figure out how do you support that. I mean, there's that effort to find ways to just make it easier. I mean, every nonprofit that has to put on an event, to run I mean, there's cost and time and energy that sometimes pulls a little bit away from the focus of the nonprofit because you got to keep your doors open. But, the time you're spending getting the event together might be time, maybe you're not able to go out and do car seat checks or, whatever your nonprofit's focused on. And I think those are those things that as nonprofit directors, we're always trying to find that balance of how do you provide that stability for the ongoing focus of the organization and then serve the people that you're trying to serve and then stay connected in a community. So I love that you guys provide all those resources. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Do you guys have a favorite project? So as you've been walking through this, I mean, you've seen the impact and you've worked in nonprofits, you've seen nonprofits. Is there a project that just is particularly closer to your heart that you've seen?
Something that like an action that we're doing locally or just
Wide
anything?
open, any of them
Okay.
that you see. But
Well, I mean, I'd love to bring the Kootenai nonprofit group meetings
Yeah.
that Emma and I organize. We actually took that over from Nikki Swain at United Way prior to her departure from United Way. And, she does so much for the nonprofit sector as well. But we've tried to take that and run with it. So we've just outgrown the Kroc Center. And we are now at Canopy Village. You brought up Canopy Village earlier. But yeah, we're definitely fortunate to have, the support of Canopy Village to give us a space to now host those meetings. But it's great. We had Rose Bax in there. We've been talking about a lot of events. Rose Bax was at the event I was at last night. So she kind of did a double shift. She was working late last night, and then we got her bright and early in the morning at the Kootenai nonprofit group meetings.
Yep.
But it's been great to kind of collaborate, see where, or just kind of create a meeting space where nonprofits can figure out where they can collaborate, and then provide some, programmatic resources as far as just, learning opportunities through, nonprofit professionals or event professionals like Rose Bax. Jan Tymason was also there to speak today about North Idaho Women and Their Money. But it's a great group that we're certainly proud of as far as, stewarding that group's meeting and organization.
That's great. I love that you just feels like there's this real strong vibe with the work that you guys do of just building things bigger and better and supporting. Do you have a project you've worked on you want to tell us about?
Absolutely. So in March, ICF hosted the Regional Impact Summit, which is our 2-day conference. Usually the location moves around every few years, but it was in Coeur d'Alene this year at Hospice of North Idaho, and we had over 40 or 50, representatives from nonprofits from all over the North region. So we had people from Sandpoint, from Coeur d'Alene, from Lewiston. And it was just a 2-day intensive where we had a variety of speakers that came in, and they talked about everything from fundraising to donor engagement strategies, retention strategies, some tax strategies. That was a very, very effective resource. And it was just fabulous to see all of these people in a room, to be able to come in, to be willing to give time to increase the capacity of their organization. And then we were able to have a donor happy hour at the end of the first day. And it was fabulous to bring our ICF donors and fund holders directly into the room with the nonprofits to meet and mingle and have a glass of wine and be able to just talk through the challenges and the successes that the nonprofits are facing. I think that that's a really vital piece of the Idaho Community Foundation is actually being able to give opportunities for our donors and fund holders to interface with the nonprofits, because we can all know that, yes, it's been a tough year for several reasons for the nonprofits, but it's so different to sit across from someone who said, this is what I'm facing and this is how you can help. And it just gave our donors the ability to know really exactly what was going on. And so that Impact Summit, we had, I think 3 of them within the span of 2 weeks all throughout the state. And then we have an annual conference in August down in Boise. So those training opportunities, I just think are phenomenal. And we had incredible reception from the individuals who were there. So I think as I think past, the past few months, that was something that just really stood out as an impactful service that we were able to provide.
Oh, that's so powerful. Yeah. I mean, again, just tying everybody together in these conversations and strengthening communities, almost just that one relationship at a time. And I think, we talked about the polarization and things that happen. And I think that's what happens when you're polarized is you don't build those relationships, you don't invest. And, through opportunities like this to just, like a lot of people do want to give, they want to be part of their community. Sometimes they don't know how, and, creating that. So Idaho Gives is obviously an event coming up that will be really easy for people to participate in. What do you guys see coming down the road? So, a couple of years down the road, what are some of the things that Idaho Community Foundation are working on, and what are some of the emerging challenges that you feel like you need to tackle?
Yeah, I'd love to start just with an upcoming study that we are going to be rolling out. Is that where you were going? Oh, so sorry.
No, do it. Yeah.
But we have, in a partnership with, I believe, Boise State University, we conducted a study on new Idahoans. So, 27% of our population is new over the last few years. And so that means that we have a new, hopeful set of donors, but we need to understand these individuals who have moved here over the last few years, why they chose Idaho, what they believe about generosity and philanthropy, and how our nonprofits can best meet those needs, and what stories do our nonprofits need to tell in order to really gauge the interest of these individuals. And so that study is coming out, and Bill and I will be rolling it out in presentation form for our local nonprofits. If you are a member of the Nonprofit Center, there will also be a toolkit. So nonprofits can join the Nonprofit Center for some extra resources, and that's one of the resources that we'll be rolling out. I'm really excited for this information to be able to come out. We got a snapshot of it a few weeks ago, and I was really surprised with some of the data that was pulled. And I think it's really important information for our nonprofits to have so that they can be able to gauge what type of events they're going to do, what type of marketing strategies are they going to employ, because the people who have moved here, they come with a whole different set of, interests and ideals. And so nonprofits have to kind of catch up to that. So I'm really excited to roll that education piece out for our nonprofits, and we'll be taking that information on the road. So it doesn't just stay here in Coeur d'Alene, but we'll do presentations all throughout the North, and then our other ICF employees will do it in every other county so that this information is available for all the nonprofits throughout the state. So very
That's wonderful.
excited.
It's so cool.
about that.
Yeah.
I also see that as being a resource not just for nonprofits. I mean, businesses alike can certainly benefit from understanding all of our new neighbors. Like Emma said, 26% of all Idahoans have moved here in the last 5 years. So when over a quarter of your population is new, like that is there's a learning curve there. For sure. I also wanted to say that I think Emma was being a bit modest earlier when she said other people were speaking. Emma was one of the presenters and speakers at our Regional Impact Summit just last month. And I just wanted to point that out, give her a shout out.
Thank you, Bill.
But where was my train of thought here? Oh, yeah. So you brought up kind of making those connections. And, our most recent study, just probably previous to the New Idahoan study, was our transfer of wealth study. So we're seeing, obviously the baby boomer generation is going to be the largest transfer of wealth that the world has ever seen. And so trying to really connect that generation with the nonprofits that they care about, and not lose that opportunity to create a moment of support that could be in perpetuity for the nonprofit sector in the form of endowments for nonprofits in that transfer of wealth. And, we say that, if you can give 5% And right now, the average in the state of Idaho is 1.8% of your annual income will be donated. So, some give more, some give less, obviously. And I've certainly been a witness to people who have given much more. It's truly remarkable when you have maybe a couple that has no kids and they say, we just want to better the place that we've lived and want to leave it better than we saw it. So, and they give everything. And that's something that's truly remarkable. And I would say it's probably better than just all going to the tax man. So,
Right.
That's another incentive because I know that Idahoans don't love taxes. So,
Well,
but
go ahead.
just to finish that thought, again, we're trying to make those connections so that nonprofits can take advantage of that transfer of wealth. And I'm fortunate to serve as the president of the North Idaho Estate Planning Council as well. And we're organizing a happy hour again at another brewery. Geez,
That's how we do
we're
things. Right.
really being a dead horse here on this brewery thing. But to try to make those connections between estate planning professionals, those financial advisors, and estate attorneys with those executive directors at nonprofits so that they can make those connections and have that be part of the conversation in these estate plans. Because, I would assume as an estate planner, I'm not immediately thinking like, oh, these people want to give away all their money. Probably not. But, it's pretty amazing when, a financial advisor can go to a client and say, look, you have, and it's not outlandish to say, with estate values and real estate values in our county, you have $1 million that's going to go to your kids. Would they really make any substantial difference in their life if maybe they got 450 each instead of 500 each? And now that small program that you loved at the Kroc Center or wherever now has a $100,000 endowment that can support them in perpetuity. And that's something that maybe all of a sudden it creates a philanthropic client where they initially never had that intent, and just really help support that nonprofit sector.
Oh, it's such a big deal. I mean, and again, you're tying this legacy back into strengthening communities. Back when we were talking about the new Idahoan, study, I think it fits really nicely into this. Is like you've had people move in and maybe they didn't spend their whole lives in Idaho. I've talked to many people that have moved in and not always received well. Sometimes people are afraid to say where they moved from, and I mean the tension between the people that have been here and the people that have been moving in. Again, sometimes there's different dynamics, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, when you're out there on the soccer field watching your kids play soccer, nobody cares where you're from. Like, we're here. How do we make sure that these kids continue to have access to sports and art and education and healthcare and growth? I mean, all these things that happen, like, it does take us all coming together to make that happen. And I think we need to do a better job. Like, I didn't grow up in Idaho. I grew up in Utah, been here 16 years, but it's still not long enough, but people that have just moved in, I mean, there's this almost fear to say where they're from. And sure, we need to protect our communities, but you need to find that space to welcome people in. And what a great way to do that is, help people get to know their communities. Most people have a passion for something. Here's a nonprofit that matches your passion. Let's get you teamed up, and maybe you're not donating the first time, but you're going to go volunteer at an event and help support it, and just again build relationships with people in that space. So,
and if you think about it, people move here because they love it here,
right?
Like when we first came over from the Seattle area, I can just remember being like, look how big the sky is. Like, look at, look at how my kids can walk to school. And we have a local community garden that's in our neighborhood that I had no idea was a nonprofit. And now I'm volunteering there because I want to make sure that local spot where my kids go and play and, dance on the stage that they have at this garden. I want to make sure that it thrives. And so I think that's the common denominator with the people who have moved here and the people that live here is that we love it here.
Yeah.
And so being able to give the opportunity to say, like, you love it here, so let's give back. And here's how you can give back. And like you're saying, it doesn't have to be financially, but how can we build up our community? We talk a lot at the Community Foundation about what the world and what our community would look like without nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask that question, it's pretty stark and staggering to think about. Yeah, as soon as you take away the nonprofits, the trails, we can't use the trails anymore. I met with the ED of our local, Idaho Trails Association yesterday, and she was telling me how many trails she has to clear with her volunteers, this spring so that I can use it in the summer. And so it's just this picture of nonprofits do so much, and they really are the backbone of our community. And it's something where when you take a moment to think about that and to learn about that, then of course you want to give in some capacity because we love it here and we want to see it thrive. And it's just a beautiful way, like, again, to kind of think about how do we deal with the current time frame that we're all living in, is to just remember how much we love our community and the opportunity that we have to make it a better place.
Yeah. Mike, you brought up a great point that, people tend to give a bad rap to all these new Idahoans, and especially those from California. And it's true that stereotype exists that most new Idahoans are from California. But I got to say, like, we complain, oh, these Californians are bringing their traffic and all the high prices and everything. But, if we want them to be engaged and give back to the communities that we live in, we need to welcome them and not shun them. So we definitely need to work on figuring out how we can better accomplish that. I will say there's definitely a bedrock of philanthropy in Idaho.
Yeah.
We are 8th in the nation in volunteerism. So that definitely shows that people care. I mean,
Show up.
Yeah, people show up. You brought up trails. Like, there's multiple trail nonprofits in this area, and like Tubbs Hill, I've gone out and you're cutting down trees and moving logs and building benches and stuff. And really, it takes a lot of work just to keep just Tubbs Hill walkable. And it was definitely amazing for me to see, kind of witness that. I was like, oh my God. I thought it was like, oh, there might be some branches and whatever. And it's a lot of work. It's, many sessions that are throughout the year that they need volunteers. So,
and people are oblivious to the work that it takes to keep these things going. And, you just take for granted that if you're going to have a rough patch in life, that someone will be there to help you. And I think, kind of that message to everybody that has moved in and to the people that have been here, it's like, this community doesn't work if we don't engage. So if you just moved here, engage. Jump in, be a part of it, help us build a stronger community. If you've been here forever, look, there are new people moving in. Get to know the neighbors and also engage if you haven't been. Let's build that strength as a community. I think that's really the power of community foundations and the work that you guys are doing. You're really building up the work for nonprofits, creating that opportunity to drive humanity back together. And boy, we sure need more of that.
Yeah. Emma brought up our affiliate model earlier, that we have, these affiliates like the Greater Coeur d'Alene Community Foundation, the Grangeville Community Foundation. I am amazed at, some of the new Californians that come in, and they move here because they see that people are engaged and they want to be a part of that too. And, just last month at our donor happy hour, a gal who's not a part of a nonprofit, just somebody from Orofino that wants to be involved and support Orofino, who is a new Idahoan, has moved here in maybe the last, I want to say it was 18 months. And she's already coming all the way to Coeur d'Alene to learn more about how she can be engaged and be a part and support the nonprofit sector in her area. So
it's so cool.
Gotta give credit where credit's due. There's definitely a lot of Californians that are moving here that are doing a lot of good, that are jumping in.
I agree.
And one item I want to share with Idaho Gives specifically is that because of this new population of Idahoans that have moved in, the Community Foundation wanted to really capitalize and bring education to that specific group of people for Idaho Gives. Yes, Idaho Gives, there it is right there. And that's our sticker for this year, Huckleberry Ice Cream. So what we're doing is we are sending postcards to those new individuals who have moved within the last few years. And the Community Foundation is going to match those new Idahoans' donations to Idaho Gives up to $250. And so it's just a way for our new friends, our new community members to have some incentive to say, oh, wow, there's some money ready to go for us. If I donate, it's doubled by the Community Foundation. And that's just an exciting way to hopefully, have them step into our Idaho culture of philanthropy. So I'm just really excited to see what will come from that marketing campaign and hopefully the long-term impact that these introductions to our local nonprofits can be.
That's great. Well, this has been fascinating. Like I really enjoy how this episode is shaped out. I mean, we sort of talk about the foundation and how you're getting here, the current challenges of just sort of bringing humanity back together. I love that that's been the thread for this. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for all of the work that you guys are doing to keep things moving in our community. Is there anything you guys want to throw out in the end? We'll do a plug for Idaho Gives on the way out, but
awesome.
Anything else?
Man, that's a good question. I'm sure there's something we're forgetting. I mean, if we kept talking, we could talk for several
I know.
hours.
Bill and I can go on and on.
I'm still working on the 3-hour Rogan episode.
Well, hopefully we don't get that far, but we'll definitely lose some listeners. They'll get bored with what we've got to say.
Biggest shout out is just Idaho Gives, May 4th through 7th. You can find all the information at idahogives.org. There's a search bar. You can go put in your favorite nonprofit. You can also filter out so you can specifically look at Kootenai County nonprofits, and everyone who's participating will come up. And the campaign is specifically May 4th through 7th, but early giving is open as well. So if you have any desire to give now, you absolutely can. So we have our first, our Idaho Gives kickoff event in partnership with United Way's Spring Dash on Saturday, April 25th. So all the nonprofits are going to be in the park cheering on the runners, but also sharing their stories and the visibility of their Idaho Gives campaign. So if anyone wants to come out and, get some stickers and some prizes and cheer on the runners, but also cheer on our nonprofits, April 25th in McEwen Park.
Speaking of volunteerism, I do know that United Way still needs some volunteers,
still needs volunteers
for their
Dash.
race.
So just go to United Way
and go from there.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, no, I would say, again, we want to encourage people to learn about the nonprofit sector through Idaho Gives and find that cause that really matches their values. But, you brought up earlier, people want to give back but don't know how. And that's, again, where the keeping hyper localize, keeping local money local and keeping it within the communities where the Greater Coeur d'Alene Community Foundation is a great place where I just want to give back. Well, yeah, that's a great receptacle that can then support Coeur d'Alene in perpetuity with their endowment fund. The Forever Idaho Fund is another example of that, which is obviously going to support all 44 counties. So if you just love Idaho, that's another great place for you to give.
Lots of opportunities. Well, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for more amazing community conversations. We'll be back next week.